Mr. Salman, Khurshid, thank you very much. Thank you for giving me time and coming on Frankly Speaking.
Delighted as always.
Mr. Khurshid, why is your government buying time with Pakistan? It appears that you have, you've issued some statements of late, but there's no sense of clarity in your statements. It appears that you're buying time. It's a transient phase. You're looking upon what's happening right now as a transient phase. Despite all the provocation that's come from Pakistan, their comment on the MFN status, they took the lead in passing this anti-India resolution. They've had so many infiltration attempts, so much incursions been going on. Hafiz Saeed has not been restrained. No movement on 26/11. Why is your government not more affirmative in its response to Pakistan?
See, let's understand one thing. You cannot forget the past and cannot write a fresh story. There has to be, without being captives of your past,
yes,
you have to factor in the recent past and the distant past into what you want to do. Then you factor in the practical reality of world politics today,
yes,
practical reality of our region, and then you factor in the practical reality and compulsions of domestic politics in Pakistan and domestic politics in our country. I don't think that you can do a sensible, reasonable and objective analysis of anything between us and them without bringing all these factors in and then keeping as paramount India's national interest. Now, India's national interest, informed by all the things, positive and negative, disappointing and encouraging, that have happened over a period,
yes,
and then we need to take a position. Now, you can't have a position by 9 o'clock in the evening,
yes,
so that the news channels can have it. It's an evolving situation. There are things that we don't like, things that we are not happy with, but there are things that we still hope can happen and things that we feel are good in the long run, even if you look at strictly from our own national interest. And therefore, you don't slam all doors at one go, unless things are such that there is no other option left. And I think despite all the disappointments, I don't think that it would be correct to say that right now.
So you're going to continue to talk to them?
I didn't say we will. I all said that we remained intellectually engaged. Whether that means talk and talk at a particular level, whether it means...
I'm asking you whether talk at a prime ministerial level, whether the Prime Minister will meet the Prime Minister of Pakistan.
Would it be
which
fair?
Many people believe will be a wrong signal to send, given what has happened. I mean, that's exactly the point that I'm making to you, Mr. Salman Khurshid. Now that the Pakistan Foreign National Assembly, all political parties, they pass a resolution condemning India. They promise to step up the ante as far as Kashmir is concerned. Why can't you categorically say that you will suspend? I'm not saying forever don't speak to Pakistan. Okay. Why don't you categorically say you will suspend talks with Pakistan? You have said the atmosphere now is not conducive to talks, but why can't you be more straightforward than that, given the response we've had from with them so far?
I am straightforward. They started this game of saying something from the assembly.
Yes.
And I think that there was, I think there wasn't a very well thought out step that they have taken.
But they've done it.
But so have we. We've responded.
That means nothing.
We've responded. No, we've responded. You don't switch off a relationship that is important for many reasons simply because someone has irritated you or has caused an affront to you. But we have a sober, sensible way of putting across to Pakistan that there are certain things that are not good for them, for our relationship, and for the region. We've said so. Why should we be forced into doing everything that can be done in one day?
Because it proves, Mr. Salman Khurshid, your government's approach to Pakistan, which is simply this, that whenever there is a grave provocation, whenever the people of this country are genuinely angry, whenever they are hurt and have reason to be hurt, you buy time. And that's the critical point I'm making. You buy time, you wait for this to subside, and once you think it has subsided, then you continue like it never happened. I can give you example after example. You know what the Prime Minister did when he went to Havana. He compared He said that Pakistan is a victim of terrorism. This is 2 months after the July train bombings which had happened. I can give you examples of Sharm el-Sheikh.
Well,
each of those cases prove one point.
Of course we can. But this would amount
We can
to...
what?
Of course we can say anything and give any example. But this amounts to advocacy of a position that you take. If you've taken a position that we want to persuade people that any engagement of Pakistan is unacceptable, you would advocate your cause in a particular manner. If you are what you describe as a peacenik, and the peacenik says, no, it is important that we talk, we will never resolve our differences without conversations, without dialogue, without talks, then you advocate a different cause. Of course you can do advocacy, and there are people in a democracy who would do advocacy.
Mr. Khurshid, why can't you be clear today with me? I'm being so clear with you. I'm asking you the three options, Mr. Khurshid, let's say three. One is you talk at the highest level, which means the Prime Minister of India, irrespective of what has happened, irrespective of the beheadings, irrespective of what's happened on the LOC, irrespective of the infiltration, irrespective of the killing of our soldiers, irrespective of the way the country feels about it, will go ahead and meet Nawaz Sharif in September in New York. Now, our second option is you talk at lower levels and you don't meet in New York at the Prime Minister level. And the third option is you suspend talks.
Who's talking?
Now, which of these options will
let's
you
go
take?
to the third. Let's go to the third option.
Yes.
Well, I don't know what you mean by suspend talks. If there was a conversation taking place today, and we walked away from it, I could understand that that's suspension. What do you mean by suspension? If there is something that could have happened, might happen 3 months from now, 2 months from now, a month from now, but it isn't happening today.
Which is what?
If there is something, there were water talks to take place, for instance. There are other official level talks that are going on. There are sports exchanges that are happening. There are people-to-people contacts that were happening. Perhaps some have been called off on their own. Perhaps some would need to be called off by intervention of government. But it is not something that's happening today that you could point to and say, you should not be doing that today. All we are saying is, look, can we please factor in what has happened? Whatever has happened is very serious. There's no doubt about it.
Pakistanis obviously don't take your government seriously.
Well, I don't know. I would be surprised. I think that if you look at what has happened in the past 10 years to say that Pakistan doesn't take our government seriously, I would disagree. I think there are many elements of their conduct towards us that indicate that they take us seriously.
Why are we so eager to give them a certificate? At the SAARC summit, for example, in the Maldives, the Prime Minister of India described Yusuf Zaza Gilani as a man of peace who could help write a new chapter in the history of our relationship. That was 4 months after the serial blast in Mumbai. Why was the Prime Minister of India giving him a certificate?
The Prime Minister of India should have offered him a sanction, should have offered him an indictment, should have offered him a rude affront. No. Should the Prime Minister have done that? This is how world diplomacy works. Please tell me the Japanese and the Americans and the Chinese and the Americans and the Iraqis and the Iranians and the Saudis and the Egyptians. You know, people have had differences, but they've always talked. And why where is an alternative to talking? Please tell me.
You seem to be bound to talking. I mean, the Sharm el-Sheikh, I can give you examples. The Sharm el-Sheikh happened, you name Balochistan, this is our 9 months after 26/11, and you are talking about not talking. Mr. Khurshid, in the case of Snowden, for example, you know, in the case of Snowden, were there the talks? Snowden was a big enough issue for the United States of America. They displayed gumption. They displayed some spine. They said that when we feel that our national interests are being violated, it is purposeless to have talks at a certain level.
Well, can I give a counter example?
You can keep giving, but I'm talking about India, Pakistan.
No. You used the United States as an example. United States went out of its way, an extra mile, to talk to the Taliban. And they talked to Taliban when attacks were taking place in Afghanistan. But I am not saying that the United States are doing the right thing or the wrong thing. It's their perception of what is necessary for them to resolve a situation that they believe they have some responsibility towards, which is to bring lasting, sustainable peace in Afghanistan, where they have made enormous sacrifices. Now, we can't compare ourselves with the United States of America, but we know what we need to do. And I am not... Every time I say that we know what we need to do, and every time we say that let us not slam the door shut today, but we are not talking today, give us the time to think about what is the right thing to do.
It seems that your government's policy, Mr. Khurshid, is that of constantly appeasing Pakistan, and
That's a view you can have. I believe that we are responsible. I think we've been applauded in the world for being responsible. I think that we are practical, we are pragmatic.
Why do you feel you need to be applauded in the world for being responsible for talking? Are these talks for the global arena? Are these talks photo ops for the world?
Talks are not for the world.
Is there global pressure?
Talks are not for the world, but you live in a world community. And when you live in a world community, you refer to the standards that the world applies, and we contribute to those standards. And the standards that the world applies is that you don't use threat, that you don't use unwholesome language, that you use the best instruments of diplomacy to achieve your national interest.
So, Mr. Khurshid, you are indirectly agreeing that there is some international pressure on your government to keep up the talks with Pakistan.
Not at all. There's pressure India has on the international community.
There's an obligation you're putting under yourself.
We have put pressure on the international community.
So you are saying it would be irresponsible to move away from the talks for a while?
We have turned the world community against the positions that they took. When I was a Minister of State, I know what I had to do when I went with Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee to Geneva to argue a cause of India, which at that time seemed like a defeated cause. And from them to now, today, the world stands with us.
But Mr. Khurshid, flatly, the question is this. Are you also not responsible to the people of this country and to what you promised them after the beheadings in January?
Yeah.
Because, Mr. Khurshid, your Prime Minister said that, and I quote, cannot be business as usual.
Yes, with whom?
With Pakistan.
With the government that's been defeated in Pakistan. There was a new government. There's a new government in Pakistan, a new government that had a stated policy when it was campaigning to get into power. It had a stated policy
which they did not live up to.
Of course, we now need to examine.
So why would the Foreign Minister of India want to go by the party manifestos or the campaigns of a political party in Pakistan?
Foreign Minister is going by the ground reality today, which is why Foreign Minister is talking to Arnab and not to a Pakistani counterpart.
No. You yourself said, and I remember, Mr. Khurshid, we may go beyond procedure.
Procedure of what?
I'm asking you.
Go beyond what procedure?
This was your response after the beheadings?
I'm not sure that you understand the context in which it was said. I don't think that's important. What was important was what the Prime Minister said.
Well, you said this was absolutely unacceptable and inhuman, the killing of Indian soldiers by slitting their throats. This is inhuman.
Are you questioning that?
This is extremely myopic. No, I'm quoting you. It is short-sighted. It is not something of light nature. Public opinion does not accept it. We want a proportionate response to this now. We may have to go beyond the procedures. We need answers from the Pakistani side. We may have to go beyond the procedures. Mr. Salman Khurshid, one question therefore which emerges is this. Mr. Khurshid, frankly tell me, are you doing anger management? As in when something happens, you feel there's an outburst and people are angry, you make a tough statement at that point of time without making a long-term commitment, and then when time subsides.
What is that?
Which is your Prime Minister, what he said, that it cannot be business as usual.
What our Prime Minister said, we complied. What our Prime Minister said was implemented. We did reverse the cycle of movement forward that had happened.
Which cycle?
There was confidence building measures, there was visas, there was a new visa regime. Everything was put on hold. There was people-to-people contact that was put on hold. We did nothing for that government.
How many weeks?
It doesn't matter how many weeks did that government last.
That means you're doing anger management.
No, I'm not doing anger management. I'm doing sensible. I'm doing sensible, representative, public politics. Public display of anger is not something that we can replicate. We can learn from it. We can take it on board. We can try to address it. We can respond to it. But we can't become angry ourselves.
But why are you compromising your national self-interest in the process?
National interest has never been compromised. I am sorry. Who is to judge the national interest?
Well,
it is the elected government of India that will judge the national interest.
Not necessarily, Mr. Khurshid. The people of this country have a right to judge national interest.
People of this country are more in touch with us than they are with you.
No,
sorry.
right. Well,
I have to say it. No. We've got to get the bottom line.
Yes, sure.
We're not prepared to accept that the people of this country are not in touch with us. People in our country are in touch with us. Of course, political parties come to power, political parties go out of power. But even when they go out of power, there are some people who are in touch with them. So you can't say